Hello all and welcome to another review of mine. Today I'm going to review a 24-hour German military ration, namely the Ein-Personen-Packung Combat Ration Individual Menu Type 4, with a best before date of the 30th of September 2025, so it is still well in date. And I'm quite excited to try this ration out. Not only is this going to be my first 24-hour ration review on camera, it is also the first time I try a German military ration. So very excited to see what's inside, and I'm also very curious to see if we get any of the rye bread, because I think the rye bread is sort of a unique part of these German rations. Also because this is a 24-hour ration, I'm gonna do this review a little bit different than normally. I'm first just gonna take out all of the stuff from this ration, and then I'm gonna divide it up into breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's actually breakfast time for me, so I will be following the normal set of meals. Now, without further ado, let's open it up. It comes in this pretty sturdy carton box. And here's a close-up of the contents of the ration. It looks extremely densely packed, so it makes sense why it was so heavy. And it also comes with this note, which I presume is an apology note, but I'll put the translation up. And first up, we have our first isotonic beverage mix, which has an exotic flavor. We have another isotonic drink with orange flavor. These are really substantial packs. They are 40 grams. Another isotonic mix, this one with grapefruit. And finally, we have a fourth isotonic drink mix with lemon flavor. So altogether, we get 160 grams of these drinks, which is quite a lot. And they are also quite calorific, 152 calories. I don't know if they have slightly different caloric values per drink, but that's already 600 calories simply in isotonic beverage-based powders or drinks. Next up, we have beef jerky, 25 grams of that. Looks like regular commercially available beef jerky. And we have our Roggenschrotbrot geschnitten, or rye bread cut. 170 grams of that, and it comes in a nice little resealable can, so quite cool, so it doesn't go still. Then we have a dried fruit mix, which is not very heavy, 50 grams, but could be quite nice. Interesting to see what fruit we'll get. 20 safety matches, 2 little chocolate bars of 25 grams each. We have a tuna fish in salad creme. I presume this would be something like salad dressing. It's a pretty small pack. It is 85 grams, but nice little bit of extra protein. Then we have 2 energy bars, cranberry flavor. Then we have 1 can of beef ham potted meat, 48 grams of that. We have, which I presume is some type of chicken sausage. We have a apricot jam, 25 grams of that. And we have a sour cherry extra jam, also 25 grams of that. And just to show you how big this ration is, I've been unpacking it, right? And we have all of these components, and we're still not even halfway through the ration. So a ridiculous amount of food, really. Then we have vanilla cookies, a bread spread with pepper, 25 grams of that. That's interesting. Next up, we have our mousse au chocolat, which is 60 grams of, I guess, dessert. Never tried one of these before. I've heard they're really good. And then for breakfast, I guess, we have our muesli with apples and strawberry. We get 80 grams of that. Then we have a Erbseneintopf mit Cocktailwurschten. I'm guessing this is a pea stew with franks or frankfurters or cocktail sausages as they're called. Basically hot dogs that are normally sold canned or jarred. And for the other main, we have Currywurst with Kartoffeln. So Currybockwurst mit Kartoffeln. So if you don't know this, Currywurst is a very famous German dish. It's probably the most popular German fast food. So quite curious to try that out in an MRE. Never had this before, so very curious. And if you thought we were finished, we are not yet finished. We have a very substantial accessory pack to go. But in the accessory pack, we got 2 tea extracts, 2 coffee extracts, 2 sugars, 2 creamers, 2 cups of vegetable broth, 2 what I think is wet wipes, what I think is another wet wipe, perhaps the other ones are toilet paper, 2 packs of salt, a pack of chewing gum, then we have another coffee drink, a cappuccino, and then we have 4 water purification tablets. And that finally is everything. Wow, what an absolutely massive ration. And here's a full view of the ration. I have to handhold my camera because I can't get it in, even in like frame really well. Actually quite impressed that they could fit all of that into such a small bag. But now it also makes sense why it was so heavy. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna divide this up for breakfast and then show you what we get. And here's what I chose for breakfast. These are probably the most breakfasty like items that I found in the ration. But yeah, let's try. First up, I'm gonna open the rye bread. Instant smell of rye bread. They look very nice, a little bit moist still, so very good. And let's open up our muesli with apple and strawberry. And this is how that looks like from up close. Quite a lot of dried fruit there, so looks good. And I'm gonna fill that up with 150 ml of cold water. And here, that's how that looks like. So, while our muesli is rehydrating, let's also make our orange flavored isotonic drink. And this is how the powder looks like. It doesn't really have a distinct smell, it just smells of vitamin C. This should be mixed with 500 milliliters of water. And even though the ration is extremely complete, it doesn't come with any spoon or eating utensils. So I'm just gonna use a regular spoon here to mix this up. Actually smells quite natural, so curious to see how that tastes. Next up, let's make our coffee. The coffee extract comes in a pack of 3.5 grams, so that's quite large. And also it's supposed to be rehydrated with 300 milliliters of water, so quite a lot. And it is quite a lot of powder. It's very fine. And let's give that a stir. It already has like a very intense aroma, smell-wise. So that's a good sign, hopefully. Then next up, I'm gonna open the fruit mix, which has a lot of really nice dried fruits. I see some papaya, some pineapple, some cranberries, some banana. Put that in there. And then let's open up our chicken sausage. And it just looks like potted meat, a little bit of gelatin. And here is our beef. It has a similar smell. They both smell the same, so putting that there so I know it's the beef, and this one that it's the chicken. And then let's finally check out our muesli. Now that rehydrated. And here's a close-up of the muesli. It's a mix of like barley and some rye flakes, I think. There's perhaps some oats as well. So quite a lot of whole grains in this ration. This is how the bread spread looks. It looks like semi-spreadable butter, basically. And this is how that looks like, spread out. And I'm gonna try this out on its own. Flavor-wise, doesn't really change anything. The rye bread itself is pretty mild tasting. The spread itself, I don't really taste much of it. Just a little bit sour. Biggest part of the spread is to just give it a little bit of more moisture and to use as a base for adding some sausage. So there's a little bit of butter still on the knife, but it's gonna go on the buttered rye bread anyhow. And this is how the inside of the sausage looks like. And here's the sausage itself. You can't really spread it, so I'll just try it like this. So this is a rye chicken sausage and butter, basically, sandwich, open-faced. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think the rye bread really needs something else to it. The sausage itself is quite fatty as well, so it really helps with the dryness. And the sausage itself has quite a nice taste, so I'll just try the sausage on its own. Yeah, and that's really a nice sausage. Very savory, very salty. A little bit of like a hint of sweetness or something. So yeah, it really reminds me of like bologna type sausage. So quite nice and quite good quality actually for something that just came out of a little pot. And then let's try our beef sausage or beef ham. And this by itself has a little bit more of a pate-like consistency, I think. So let's try a little piece on its own. The flavor is less strong though, so I do prefer the chicken sausage over the beef sausage because it has more pronounced flavor. And let's try this on a piece. There's still a piece of chicken there. So this is our open face sandwich. And yeah, that's a pretty good combination. And while we're at it, let's try our orange flavored isotonic drink. And that is actually really not bad. It sort of reminds me of the flavor you get when you go on holiday and they have a breakfast buffet, and it's not like the fanciest breakfast buffet ever. And so they have orange juice in a fountain, but it's like not real orange juice. That's sort of what reminds me this of, which is totally good for a military drink. Really nice sweetness to it, a little bit sour, an artificial orange flavor, but it's not bad, so yeah. And then let's take a big spoon of our muesli that has been soaking for quite some time. Here it is, a big spoonful of it. So let's try. And that's pretty okay. And it has a little bit of a nutty flavor to it. It's quite hearty and is not sweet at all. Fruits are almost dissolved, so you can't really taste or feel those anymore. It's a lot of grain there. Not bad, but not my favorite. And finally, we have our dried exotic fruit mix or dried fruit mix. Here's a close-up of what we have. Papaya, pineapple. I guess these are apple bits. I stand corrected. These are coconut bits, bananas, and also some cranberries, I guess, or cherries. So yeah, let's take a whole handful. It's quite sweet, obviously. Some of the fruits are candied. Quite a lot of different textures as well. Some are chewy, some are hard. And I think really the way to go would be to put all of these into the muesli. So I'm just gonna shuffle this over to the muesli to make it a little bit more sweeter and a little bit more palatable. And here's a close-up of our mix. And I really think that's the way to go. That's a much nicer combination. So then we have our coffee, very dark coffee. Let's try. So that's the way I like my coffee, dark and very strong. I don't think this is a very complex coffee, it's just mostly very bitter. And the way I made it, it's really almost espresso strength. That's the way I like it. You could add some more water and probably mellow it down a little bit. You also get the sugar and coffee creamer. And then I'm gonna open some of these accessory pack items. So this is just a very sturdy napkin. Like it does tear, but it's a very dense paper, very moist, quite good for disinfecting. And then we have our 20 pieces of safety matches, which come in a little matchbook. They are sort of the same as the American MRE ones. So yeah, that's it for breakfast. I'll finish off the rest off camera, but overall, quite impressed. It's a very balanced breakfast actually. A lot of food already, and I'll see you in a few hours for lunch. Hello all and welcome back for lunch. This is what I chose to have for lunch, which includes the Currybockwurst met Kartoffeln, which is a total of 300 grams and has a total caloric value of about 460 calories. So before we get into anything else, let's heat that up in some boiling water. And while that's heating up, let's make our drinks and unpack the rest of the components. I still have a lot of the rye bread left. And while that is heating up, let's try to make some of our drinks. We have 2 drinks and we have 1 hot drinks. So we have the isotonic beverage base with grapefruit flavor, and we have an isotonic beverage base with exotic flavor. So let's make those. Grapefruit flavor, it has a very strong grapefruit smell already to it. And that's how it looks. It has a little bit of a pinkish hue. Let's add our water. And then for the exotic flavor drink, let's also add that to some water. Fill that too. And let's give that a stir. But it has a little bit of a mango smell to it. I don't know if that's like the right way to describe it, but yeah, very orangey. And then we have our tuna fish in salad dressing. not a huge bag, but kind of curious what that looks like. Very densely packed. And there's a close-up of our tuna. And then I'm gonna open up the Knorr beef jerky. And that's how that looks. Very thin, red strips. And then we have our energy bar, cranberry flavor. Mostly a Rice Krispie bar, quite sticky because of the glucose syrup. And then finally, we have our jams. So I'm gonna try this one first. And here we have it. Very smooth consistency. Don't really see any fruit, very dark. And here is our apricot jam. From both we get 25 grams. And it has a little bit more of a golden color to it. Very homogeneous, and I don't see any fruit. Let's try to get one of these slices out and add some jam to it. So first the sour cherry. Here we have it, a blob of jam. Spread it out a little bit. We probably have enough jam and meats to use all of the rye bread, so that's quite nice. But let's try this first. And yeah, either by itself or on the bread, it doesn't really have any distinct flavor. It's just sweet and sugary. I really don't taste any cherry or sour cherry in this. Not my favorite, but let's try the apricot. And let's spread it out. A little bit more thick. And yeah, here it is, spread out on the rye bread. So let's try. That one as well doesn't really have a massive flavor to it. Just gonna try the apricot jam by itself. Like this one has a little bit of an apricot flavor. It's quite subtle. It's better than the cherry, but neither of them are particularly good jams in my opinion. Let's wash that away with some of the grapefruit drink. And that's quite a good drink. It doesn't taste too artificial because there's quite a lot of sugar in it. It's not too sour either. Just a nice, pleasant citrus flavor to it. So not bad at all. And while we're at it, let's also try our very orange exotic fruit drink. I don't really know what to think of it. I can't really place the flavor. It doesn't really taste like mango or papaya or anything like that, or pineapple. There's a specific aftertaste to it, almost bitter, but not my favorite. So far, when it comes to drink, the orange one, definitely my favorite. And then I'll try the tuna fish on its own. The tuna is quite fine. You don't really see any of the salad dressing in it. Sort of emulsified into the tuna. But let's try that on its own. The tuna itself, very salty. There's a little bit of hint of lemon in there, so I guess that's the dressing. It's quite moist and it has a pretty strong fishy flavor. So this is really not tuna that sort of tastes like nothing. It really has a distinct fish flavor to it. But let's try some of that on our rye bread. Here I use the tuna as a spread. It's very easily spreadable, so I guess that's part of the purpose of the tuna in this ration. There's a lot of ways to use this rye bread as well, but let's try. The salt of the tuna works quite well with the rye bread, makes it a little less bland. And the tuna is also quite moist, so that definitely helps with the dryness of the rye bread. So that's a pretty good combination and pretty fine tuna actually, pretty good. Here we have our main, pretty well heated in boiling water. And that also means that we can make our hot drink, which is the cappuccino powder. 10% is coffee. Package is 18 grams in total. It has a nice foam to it. So let's stir that a little bit. And then I'm gonna set it aside for dessert. And then we have our heated up Currybockwurst mit Kartoffeln. It has a really nice smell to it of sausage. This is how it looks like in the bag. And here's a close-up. We have quite some pieces of sausage, and then we also have some little cubes of potato, and it's all in a curry sauce. For the people that don't really know what curry is, it's not really an Indian curry, although it has some of those spices. It's mostly a sweet ketchup with curry spices. That's the best way I can describe it. We sometimes eat it in the Netherlands with fries or other sausages as well. Excited to try this. Big spoonful. Yeah, that's really good. The sausage still has a little bit of twang to the skin, so it's not mushy, which is really nice. Potatoes you can't really taste much of. And the curry sauce is quite nice. It's a little bit sweet and sour. Definitely has a little bit of that curry flavor to it. Not a kick, but the flavor. Really quite an excellent main. And I'm also quite impressed by the sausage. You also got quite a few pieces, so it's sweet and savory and very comforting. So really good main. As a final savory part of the meal, probably as a snack, we have this normal beef jerky. So yeah, the beef jerky is a little bit more tough or leathery than some of the other beef jerkies I had in other rations. But the flavor is really good. There's quite garlicky, a little bit peppery, very savory, and it has a good chew to it. So definitely will keep you going for a little bit. So it's a really nice snack to include in a ration. And as a final item to try, we have our cranberry energy bar. Looks very uniform, very dense. Yeah, and it's very nice. It's very soft, a little bit chewy. Good flavor of the cranberries going through, quite fresh. And it's not even overly sweet, which I sort of would expect. The Rice Krispies as well give it quite a nice crunch. Overall, a massive lunch. They give you a lot of things to do with the bread. And then let's try our cappuccino. Very nice, soft, subtle flavor. But unlike a lot of these other cappuccino drinks, you can definitely still taste the coffee. So there's enough coffee in this to make it actually taste like a coffee rather than just a warm, sweet milk drink. Up my alley for sure. So yeah, that's it for lunch. And so far, I'm thoroughly impressed by this ration, especially because of the variety that's included. Obviously, the way you split up these meals probably would be different in real life than I'm eating them now. You would just have the Currywurst and an energy bar, and then you would have the tuna and the beef jerky, for instance, as a snack later. Same, you wouldn't drink 2 drinks during the meal, I presume, but only 1 and make the other one later. So yeah, thoroughly impressed by this ration, and let's see if the dinner also impresses. Hello all, and welcome to dinner. Even though we've already had quite a large breakfast and quite a large lunch, there's still a lot of food left to try out. In fact, we have so much food left that we can make a full 3-course dinner out of the components that we still have. And because I'm gonna heat up the main, I'm gonna make the warm drinks first. And as a starter, we have our vegetable bouillon, and here's a close-up, and we should add 250 milliliters of hot water to this, which is quite a lot for what seems to be not a lot of powder. And here it is, already dissolved quite well, and you can see quite a lot of herbs already in that. And then we also have our tea extract, and we should add a whole whopping 450 milliliters of hot water. It's a brown powder, not a lot of it, so perhaps it's just a very strong tea extract. And let's give our dark tea a stir. I'm gonna heat up the main in some boiling water. And then we still have 1 isotonic drink left with lemon taste. It has an instant fresh lemon smell to it. Let's add some water. And then, as we're still waiting for the main to heat up, let's rehydrate our chocolate mousse. We got 60 grams of this, and we should only add 100 milliliter of cold water. It also has a nice gusset. And here's the powder. It smells like instant cocoa. A little bit more chocolatey. Let's add 100 milliliters of water. Doesn't look like a lot. And then let's stir this. Make sure we get everything. It's already firming up. And let's let that sit and rehydrate for 10 minutes. We have a small 35-gram package of cookie with vanilla flavor. And here's a close-up of the cookies. They're little tiny things. Let's put that out on the tray. And they're pretty intact. I guess these are more like shortbread cookies, but let's try. And those are okay. They are not extremely flavorful, but have a really nice texture. They're crunchy. A very slight hint of vanilla, but I think that the main use for these is to put them in the chocolate mousse. And then we have our little chocolate bar. We got 2 of these in total, 25 grams. And these look like perfectly fine, commercially available chocolate. Then we also have our chewing gums. Normally I don't really review the chewing gums because they're all the same, but because we got such a large pouch. I'd like to show it to you. Really quite packed in there, so we got a lot. That will definitely last you through the day. And as we're still waiting, let's try our instant tea. It looks very dark, very surprising for such a small amount of powder. And that tastes surprisingly good. It's just a black tea. It's not Earl Grey or anything. It's a little bit bitter, so I'll add some of the sugar, 4 grams of it. Let's try a few blocks of our dark chocolate. This really just looks like regular chocolate. It doesn't really smell of any type of military chocolate either, so let's try. And that is just a really nice dark chocolate. Something you can buy in the store, not too cheap. It has a good cacao flavor. It's 55% cacao. As far as military chocolate go, this is really good. I don't think there's anything in this that's different from regularly commercially available chocolates. And here we have our main, our peas stew with cocktail sausages. Let's pour it out. And there we have it. So we have a stew with peas, a pea sauce, basically, or soup. And then we have these little tiny cocktail sausages. So these are like frankfurters, so not a huge amount, but looks pretty nice. But before we have the main, we should first try the starter. Vegetable broth. Yeah, that's very nice. It just tastes very salty, but it does have a nice, almost fresh vegetable flavor to it. So that's pretty good actually. And I think another use case for this is to actually just use the powder as seasoning of the main if you like it more salty, or to add a little bit of extra to it. But now for the main event, I'll try a spoonful, let's see if I can get everything in one, of our Erbseneintopf with mini cocktail sausages. So here you can see a little sausage, some of the peas, and some potato. So let's try. That tastes really nice. It's not plain, but it tastes quite natural. You taste canned peas or potted peas, basically, first and foremost. The sausage itself, so it's a little bit soft. It's just a cheap little hot dog sausage, basically. But that's a pretty good main, actually. And that's quite surprising to me, because it's relatively simple. But overall, that's pretty filling, pretty hearty, pretty savory. Wash it away. We have our lemon isotonic beverage base. And that is also quite good. It's obviously a little bit sour because it's lemon, but it's not an artificial lemon flavor. It tastes a little bit more natural than I expected it to be. You do have a little bit of hint of vitamins in this. It has sort of that multivitamin taste. This is the second best after the orange drink. And then finally, let's see how our chocolate mousse rehydrated. It's a little bit wobbly, sort of looks like chocolate pudding. Still a little bit runny, but I did measure the water, so I really only put like 100 milliliters in. And let's get this out here. So it's still quite runny. I gave it much more than 10 minutes, so that should be it. And here's a close-up of it on the spoon. It tastes like either a very thick cocoa or a very thin chocolate pudding. It does have little pieces of actual chocolate in it, little sprinkles. It isn't bad. It's mostly sweet. But as far as desserts go, in MREs, that's a pretty good one. And what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna add some of the vanilla cookies into the pudding and mix them up a little bit. It's quite a gloopy mess, but I'm sure it will taste quite awesome. I think the cookies add a little nice crunch to it, and they absorb the chocolate mousse quite well. Perhaps a trick would be to add this to the mousse when you rehydrate it, so it could thicken up the chocolate mousse a little bit, so to give it more texture. Add half of them at the end to have the texture nice and crunchy. That's a pretty nice dessert. Actually, we still have some bread, so perhaps I'm not done yet. We can try some of the peas stew on some of the rye bread. So here we have peas stew on rye bread. And that also is a good combination. So the bread gives a nice little base to it, a bit of texture, and also a little bit of extra flavor, a little bit of extra savoriness. So I think that's also a really nice combination. So yeah, that was it for this review. So overall, this was an amazing ration. I think there were a few components that just didn't do it for me. I thought the muesli was okay, but not great. Same with the apricot and the cherry jam. They weren't amazing. I also think the exotic mix drink or the exotic fruit drink wasn't really nice. I threw that away. And the final thing we should remember is also that this didn't include the hardkeks or the biscuits, which I think also would have made a good combination with either the chocolate pudding or with the jam. So we didn't get this in the ration. I don't know if we got extra items because those were missing or not. Besides those items, I think this was an absolutely awesome ration. A lot of food, a lot of fun trying this out. I think my next ration will be a 24-hour French ration. I've been mentioning this for the last 4 or 5 videos, so I think at this point I probably should actually review it. Also very interested to see how this video will turn out. This is the first time I do a 24-hour ration. I shot this all in one day and it will probably take some time to edit. So I don't know how long the video is gonna be in the end. I hope not too long. But yeah, that was it for this meal. Thank you all so much for watching and see you next time.